There is a profound strength that often goes entirely unnoticed in a world obsessed with noise. Let me share an insight gained from watching human behavior unfold. The individuals who speak the least are frequently the ones who perceive the most. They stand on the sidelines, not absent, but deeply attuned. This isn't social anxiety, it's a strategic choice. They aren't detached. They are guarding a precious internal space. Their clarity, their equilibrium, their unique perception of reality. You see, a quiet room isn't void. It's saturated with the details everyone else misses. The subtle shift in posture, the unspoken meaning behind a glance. For those who are reserved, language is a valuable currency, and they invest it wisely. If you've ever been labeled the quiet one, hear this clearly. Your reserve isn't a shortcoming. It's a sophisticated form of intelligence that a noisy world struggles to comprehend. The mental framework of a person of few words is complex, profound, and frequently misinterpreted. Their silence doesn't signal a vacant mind, but a mind overflowing with parallel streams of thought. Most reserved individuals won't speak unless their words carry significance. Their cognitive process isn't just formulating a response. It's a real-time analysis of the entire social landscape. Who is the audience? What is the true intent here? What remains unspoken? This isn't anxiety. It's a high-functioning emotional radar in action. Psychological research suggests that those who speak less often possess heightened self. They reflect before they respond. They don't feel less. They feel so intensely that language can feel inadequate to contain it. And herein lies the great misunderstanding. Our culture celebrates volume. It rewards the loudest voice, the most repeated opinions, personalities that dominate the space. But the quiet person understands a fundamental truth. Decibels do not equal depth. More talk doesn't make a point more valid. Often, the most impactful statements are the ones never uttered aloud. Consider this. In any group, there's often one person who contributes sparingly. But when they choose to speak, the room falls silent to listen. That isn't an accident. It's authority, cultivated through purposeful silence. Because stillness builds a powerful presence, and presence commands a natural gravity. Quiet people are wired to perceive differently. They catch the nuances others ignore. The slight tremor in a hand, the brief pause before an answer, the change in atmosphere when a new person enters. It's not a supernatural gift. It's refined pattern recognition, honed through dedicated observation, not through constant interruption. When you speak less, your senses sharpen. You begin to hear the silence between the words. You start to intuit what others are concealing, and this grants you a unique power. The power to comprehend without prejudice, to share a feeling without directing it, and to perceive the person behind the social facade. But here's the reality. A calm exterior doesn't always mean a calm interior. For many, silence is a container, a way to hold back internal turbulence. A quiet individual may appear serene, but within, their mind is a symphony of thoughts, scenarios, memories, and concerns all playing simultaneously. That's the reason for the pause before they speak. They are seeking coherence before sound. Some research links quiet dispositions to introversion, which is not about social fear but about energy conservation. They replenish their energy in solitude. They discover calm in internal quiet. Excessive stimulation, whether auditory or emotional, depletes them. So, they select their words with the care of a curator assembling an exhibit. It's not about being enigmatic, it's about being exact. For a quiet soul, words have mass, and once released, they cannot be retrieved. Yet, this silence can also stem from a more profound source. an upbringing where one was not truly heard, a series of life events where speaking out led to dismissal or pain. So, instead of struggling for a platform, they learned to watch, to understand first, and to speak only when essential. In time, this evolves from a tactic into a core part of their identity. When you've learned that people often hear to respond, not to comprehend, silence becomes a sanctuary, and that sanctuary becomes your foundation. But do not misinterpret this sanctuary for fragility. Within that reserve lies one of the most potent abilities in the modern world, the capacity to think before you act. In an era of instant hot takes and reactive outbursts, that is a genuine superpower. Individuals who speak less often demonstrate greater self-regulation, the psychological skill of managing impulses. They can experience intense emotion without letting it dictate their speech. They halt, they consider, and they choose their language with intention. That isn't indifference. It's a mastered skill. And it's why countless revered artists, philosophers, and inventors throughout history were watchers first and speakers second. They resided in the quiet studios of their minds, linking concepts invisible to others. Because insight is born from stillness. It's in quietude that invention sparks, that profound realizations form, that true knowledge matures. You cannot discern truth in bedlam. You can only find it in quiet. But let's be real. Maintaining quiet in the contemporary world is difficult. People interpret silence as discomfort. They feel compelled to populate every pause with chatter, every quiet moment with narration, and when you don't sync with that tempo, you're categorized as odd, aloof, or remote. But what if being quiet isn't a failure to keep pace? What if it's a more advanced rhythm? One that prioritizes listening over speaking, that seeks to understand before it replies, because silence doesn't signify inaction. It signifies intense internal activity. And perhaps that's why quiet people often form such profound bonds when they finally do share. Because every word they offer has been sifted through reflection, compassion, and authenticity. They aren't aiming to dazzle. They are aiming to communicate with honesty, clarity, and sincerity. A study indicated that people who are more introspective and quiet often exhibit increased neural activity in brain networks linked to empathy and self-examination. This means their silence isn't a void. It's an active processing center. They are not merely hearing others. They are also hearing their own inner world. But this deep introspection carries a burden. Because when you perceive so much, sense so much, and absorb so much, you also end up carrying a great deal. Quiet individuals often shoulder invisible weight. They become emotional reservoirs, soaking in the environment around them. The stress in the air, the grief in a laugh, the vibe of an exchange. That's why solitude feels so restorative to them. It's not isolation, it's purification. And yet, when they form attachments, they are profound. When they commit, it's authentic. When they support someone, it's not from duty. It's from a soul-level recognition, because they don't operate on the surface. They don't engage in trivialities, but they pursue substance. If you've ever encountered someone like this, someone whose gentle words linger in your thoughts for days, you've met a person who sees silence not as an emptiness, but as a foundation. They allow you to fill it with your own authenticity. They listen not to formulate a reply, but to truly witness you. That is a rare quality. But here's the contradiction. Quiet people desire genuine contact, yet they dread being misread. They wish to be recognized, but not put on display. They want to be understood, but not talked over. So they often withdraw, not from a lack of caring, but because they care too intensely. It's not that they lack perspectives or passions. They simply prefer to live them completely before offering them, and when they do share, it feels significant because you aren't just hearing a sentence. You're hearing something they've held privately for a long time. And if you are someone who is quiet, I need you to remember this. You do not owe the world chatter to validate your existence. You don't need to speak to be influential. You don't have to rationalize your quiet. It speaks for itself in the way you observe, the way you empathize, the way you comprehend. Stillness is not an emptiness. It's an alternate dialect, a gentler way of stating, I am present, I perceive, I know, and sometimes that communicates more than vocabulary ever could. Because ultimately, it isn't about your quantity of speech. It's about the quality of your connection. And those who dwell in quiet often connect most profoundly. They just accomplish it in a manner the world has forgotten how to interpret.